Hi everybody, this is Brother Judkins. Every Friday morning after you turn in your critique videos, I plan on doing a teacher critique for those that turned in a PDF. Out of 28 students, I received 20 PDFs, so that's great. Only 8 students either didn't turn in a PDF or they turned in the wrong kind of a document, like an InDesign document or a JPEG or something like that. So anyway, if you turned in a PDF, then I will be just quickly going through it and giving you some feedback on it. So let me jump right in with this first project. I'm not sure whose it is, and that's fine. I like to keep these fairly anonymous anyway. But let me start with the things that I see that I really like. I really like the white space that you've left, especially right here around the title. That really gives it some focus, some nice focus, and gives it a hierarchy so that we know that this is important. In fact, it's probably the most important thing on the page. Photo is important as well, but you've done a nice job giving that title some contrast. This secondary contrast is also very good. All you did was make it a little bigger, a little bolder, and that helps lead us right down into secondary and then tertiary, or the third most important. So that's great. And then this information is also larger, and that helps create a hierarchy on the page. Hierarchy is really important. Users don't want to have to try and figure things out for themselves. In order to digest information quickly, we want to visually be told where to look. Okay, what's first, what's second, what's third. And you've done a great job with that. Another thing that's working really well is this strong alignment that connects these three paragraphs. Because they are left aligned, they not only do they connect to each other, they also connect to the right edge of this photo. That's excellent. That creates a unity and an organization that makes it easier to digest the information. A couple of suggestions that I'd make. This dark gray here is too dark, and so the letters are disappearing. They don't have as much contrast as they could. I would lighten that up. Consider moving kind of a lighter gray over and just getting rid of this dark gray. Same thing here. The text is disappearing, and you want more contrast down here, not less. One other thing that I would do is use this idea of strong alignment to throughout your piece to create more unity. So here, do you see how this line is not straight vertical invisible connection? And same thing here. There's none of these three things or four things right here connected. Now this text down on the bottom may be connected with this L, but it looks like it's just a little bit off. Everything looks like it's just a little bit off. Maybe it's connected with the G. This logo, a little bit off. The edge of this box, what's it connected to? I don't think it's connected to anything. So everything should be connected to something. And the fewer connections like that, the fewer vertical invisible lines that connect things, the better. I do notice there's a spelling mistake here that you didn't catch, so check the spelling again. I would encourage everybody here where it has this information, registration and more information available at, please take off http://www. If it says .com on it, we know that it's a website. This information might have been important in the olden days, but anymore, all you need is voyantcomm.com/leaders, and that will tell us it's a website. Okay. One other connection that you might consider, and that is not only these vertical connections where things are lined up vertically, but also horizontally. The top edge of this photo, it's not really connected to anything either. It would be nice if it connected here to the top edge of this text. And then give him some headspace. He's crowded in this photo. He's got nice lead space in front of his nose, but here at the top of his head, it's right there. And that feels claustrophobic. Okay, here's the second one. Really like this. You did some cool things with the logo. Not exactly sure what's going on there, but it's different. I like that. Um, Seems like something's cut off here on the logo, but maybe I'm just not remembering it right. Oh yeah, buoyant communication. There's part of the logo that's cut off. You'll want to be sure that you include the whole logo there. I really like this nice bold title. I would prefer that it not be center aligned here. It could be stronger if it was either left aligned or right aligned or justify aligned. This is a nice strong left alignment. It would be nice if there was some hierarchy in this text so that we could skim it, make something bigger, bolder. Um, that would help us to breeze right through that. But there's a nice strong line that connects all of these pieces here, and then a nice strong line over on the right that connects all of those pieces. And then this is all connected. Um, you might consider this, putting this in a different place, although it's not bad, it's just not connected to anything. Maybe to this. Anyway, anything else on this one? Good contrast there. Yeah, I think that's about it for that one. On this project, there's a little crowding right there. Um, and this text looks like a lot of text. So if there's anything you can do to break it up, I would encourage that. Also check spelling. I see a couple of spelling mistakes here. Watch hyphens. You don't want a hyphen on this word. In fact, the fewer hyphens, the better. Uh, it is awkward. I like that you used an N dash here. At least I believe that's an N dash. It's a little bit longer than a hyphen. I'm not fond of the center alignment of these two, title and subtitle. There's good contrast between the fonts and the sizes, and there's good white space up here. I think there's a little bit too much space between these two lines because there needs to be a relationship. It needs to be visually obvious that graduate and leadership conference are one thing. So that space is communicating that this is one and this is one. So close that space up. I like the repetition of the circle. Repeats the circle in the logo as well. And this is nice. You've got a little wrap on your text, and fairly good white space. So well done. First thing that stands out to me here is the photo looks really pixelated. You'll want to be sure that you get the original full resolution version of this photo. And then this is a cool shape, but if you're going to do angles that are off just a little bit, you need to do them off more than that because everything else is 90 degrees and this is just barely off 90 degrees and it makes it feel like a mistake. So I'd say either do 90 degrees or really do this angle thing and then repeat this odd angle thing somewhere else. So it doesn't feel like this is just, whoops, our photo got skewed or something. Check your spelling. Notice a mistake on the spelling here. Don't center align text. It's not strong. Center aligned text is elegant and balanced, and we want balance, but we want asymmetrical balance, which is stronger than symmetrical balance. So avoid center aligning your text. Yeah, so there's some good contrast going on up here. This line and this space separates these two things. I don't know if you need graduate twice. Graduate leadership conference. I think once would be sufficient. You need a half-inch margin all the way around, and I'm not sure that you've got a half inch. I'm pretty sure you don't. So check the specs. That's one of the requirements for the project is that you have a half-inch border on this project. Okay, again, nice white space and contrast, very clean, clear, Nice little text wrap here. And you might try to do something that is more that has stronger alignment, stronger lines. This stair step isn't bad. It feels a little bit off, like maybe it should be following this same curvature and this one doesn't. So I don't know. This is a nice little design repetition and a little font repetition. This little bit of contrast in here is really nice. It helps us to skim through the text and digest it more easily. So good job. Oh, and good job taking off the http:// Very, very nice. I don't know about anything else. Well, maybe a little more contrast up here in the title. Within the title, there's good contrast between the title and the body copy, but maybe one of these words could be more different than it is right now. In other words, make leadership or make graduate larger or different font. Otherwise, this is a nice, clean project. Really like this large leadership and contrast between sizes here. And this is very readable. So you put the black text in the lighter area of the gradient. That is great. Nice strong alignment here for this text, although it would be nice to have this broken up so that we can tell what goes where. Also, please check your spelling. I see at least 3 blaring spelling errors. You need to edit that text. Also, align this body copy with the edge of this photo. It's so close. That little bit of being off disorganizes it and makes it harder to take in quickly. And then this text that is center aligned is not connected to anything, plus the center alignment is weak. So avoid center alignment unless it's absolutely necessary or unless you're doing something that is meant to be reverent or soft or poetic. I don't think this information qualifies. All right, great job on this. Really like the white space that you've left here. It's important to not try and fill up all of the space. There's some white space down here as well. There's a nice strong alignment over here. This text is hard to read because it's center aligned and it's not strong and it's not connected to anything. So change this up. This photo, I believe, could be larger. It's so small that it's saying it's not important, and it is important. It's the thing that might pull people into the flyer. This black text on a dark gray box isn't. There's not enough contrast. Either lighten the text or lighten the box. I like that the logo is small. It really doesn't need to be huge, so that helps with the hierarchy on this page. Connect everything to something. So see how this center aligned text is not connected to anything, and this text is just floating there, not connected to anything. And I'm not sure where this conference is. You've left off the location. You have the date and the time, but no place. All right, so a triangle design element introduced here. This is different. I really like that. I haven't seen this done before this way. It helps bring out this information that's important because it makes it different. Something about triangles that's tricky is having them interact with other elements. So where this triangle is pointing to graduate, it's nice that it's pointing, but it creates a tangent, and a tangent is an area of unwanted visual focus, and wherever you have sharp points close to other things, you get a tangent. So there's a tangent here, there's a tangent right there. This is also a little bit of a tangent, this flat edge close to her head. And where wherever text overlaps edges of things, like this edge, see the O and the I are both overlapping that edge, you get little tiny tangents as well. So unwanted focus. Consider some hierarchy here. Consider making the logo smaller and watch the proximity. Again, maybe a little tangent right in here. Nice strong alignment between these paragraphs, but it's off here. See how this doesn't connect? And this might connect. Just make sure, make things connect with those invisible vertical lines. All right, so you've got kind of a theme going on here with those drop shadows, and drop shadows are great if they enhance contrast, but your drop shadow is actually decreasing the contrast because the contrast between white and this gray color of the text is more than the contrast between gray on black on white. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's also muddying up the shapes of these letters, making them harder to read. And is that how you spell convention? That's important, especially when you make words big. It's vital that you spell them correctly because people are probably going to read them. But even words that aren't quite as big need to be spelled correctly. Nice catch there on this word. What else? Alignments. So I've probably said this too much already in this video, but make sure that everything aligns with something. This text down here is not connected to anything. This is a nice way to handle the circle to bring everything in and hold it together. Things are trapped a little bit in here. You've reduced the amount of white space that's possible because you've put these heavy lines on it. And then the other thing about these lines is that they're calling a lot of attention to themselves and they don't have any useful information in them. So it's like a decoration that says, I'm the most important thing on the page because I'm so heavy and bold, but they're not really very important. Watch the space between things. So there needs to be a relationship here. They should be closer to each other. All right, I'm going to start repeating myself, and I don't mean to, but honestly, these are the things that I always notice. Alignment, how is it? There's a lot of center alignment here. There's things that are just barely off of line. There's some good contrast here. There's some pretty good white space. A little bit too much space between these two lines. Nice contrast there. And I like the crop on this photo. Their heads are cropped off so that they don't feel like they're trapped. It's almost like they're escaping out of the photo, so that's great. Nice contrast here. Be sure you don't trap things too close to edges of the box. And overall, this flyer looks like it could use a little bit more white space. Great contrast up here, good space within the black box. Good strong alignment here, but it's off of that edge just a little bit. If you're going to make these not aligned, then really make them not aligned, but don't make them so close that it looks like a mistake. Okay, check spelling, good contrast hierarchy with this being bolder and bigger, this being bigger, this being smaller. So it takes us 1, 2, 3, boom, 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 right down through this information. This is nice repetition of the theme up here, but it could use some more space inside that box. Oh, this is different. I like that. It's a little awkward that you can see part of a head right here and part of a shoulder and neck right there. But I like that this is different. I like the repetition of the 3 circles. You used that 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Very nice. Be sure that text has enough space. This text is too crowded on that edge and too crowded on this edge. So make the box bigger or the text smaller or move it away from that edge. Nice hierarchy here. Almost nice alignment. This looks like it's a little bit off of these paragraphs. These circles they have some tangent issues with the straight box here. So it would be better to either overlap them on top of that line or take them off farther. Same thing down here. And I wonder if these could be a little bit smaller. These are just decorative elements that are calling attention to themselves, and they don't tell us anything. They don't deserve the attention that they're getting right now. This is nice. I haven't mentioned this on the other projects. I just didn't think of it, but it's a good idea to have your subjects, if they're facing left or right, to have them looking into the information so that his eye will actually lead us in. It's kind of in a funny place up here, but it still works. His eye leads us right in there. There's some good contrast up here. Those little dots are nice, subtle decorative element. I wonder about fewer dots, but it's probably okay. There are some tangents, some pretty significant tangents here where the text crosses over the edge of this photo and creates little shapes that are uncomfortable, and it makes it less readable because you've got dark text on a darker background on this side. Over here in the light area it's probably fine, but here the photo's too dark for this text. I'm wondering about the alignment here, but maybe this is okay because it's off enough. I wonder about moving it all the way over and letting those dots kind of float off the edge, or let the dots align with the edge just to bring it all in together. I like how you've designed this, that they all kind of nest in together. But I think that if you're going to do that, then make this text, I mean the first line here and the third line here, visually different than the body copy. So kind of like you did with Competitive Edge, and it doesn't need to be this big, but it should be different somehow so that it doesn't just look like the rest of this body copy. It's functioning differently. It should look different. Nice strong alignment here. Does it align with the edge of this photo? Or maybe it aligns right there. I guess that's all right. That's a good tie-in, although this edge is a lot heavier. I would think that that would be a more obvious, not obvious, more organized place to put it, because this has so much weight. Then aligning to that would help it feel more organized. Watch his head. He needs some space right there at the top of his head. Okay, we're almost there, guys. I have about 6 more of these to do, 7 more of these. And you can fast forward. That's the nice thing about videos, right? If this isn't yours and you're not interested, I'm saying the same things over and over again, then just fast forward. So here we go. This text is all center aligned. Please don't do that. This text is all center aligned. Please don't do that. This text might be center aligned as well. Please don't do that. This text is too dark in that dark area. Same with this text, too dark in that dark area. The boxes, that's a nice idea. The only problem is that it traps space. So instead of having, like if this line wasn't here, then we'd have this much white space. As it is, we only have this much white space. So untrap things if you can, and maybe use fewer boxes here. It is a nice idea and it does organize things, but it also creates some problems. I like that you left some white space in this box. This feels a little awkward to have the GLC fancy, and then the other text in a sans serif font. So you've got a script and a sans and an old style. I think the requirement here is that you use 2 fonts maximum, and you're using 3. So decide which ones you definitely want. I probably would go with the sans. This stuff feels a little bit too fancy and girly. I don't know, maybe not girly, but a little bit too fancy for this particular flyer. Really like this. I like this white space. I like that you've left space inside your boxes here. There's nice strong alignments. Your title is not complete. It just says graduate. And not really sure if visually I go, okay, graduate. They want me to graduate. Maybe this is a conference. It tells me how I can graduate. Here it does say Graduate Leadership Conference, but it's not clear that the relationship between this, what is that word for, and then this down here. This feels like the title, and then this just feels like body copying. Watch hyphens. If you can get rid of hyphens, that's great. There should be a little checkbox in InDesign that you can use to get rid of hyphens. This hyphen especially is undesirable. It looks like it's been typed in, and then the position of that line has changed. I like how this text is so easy to find and so clean in this box. Yeah, that's very nice. Some good contrast, some good alignment. This is a great idea. Really difficult to execute. You gave yourself quite a challenge in doing the triangle thing here. These angles don't feel like they're quite on. This angle doesn't seem like it's leading in the same direction as this text angle. You've created a need for hyphens, and you want to get rid of hyphens if possible. There's also some minor tangent issues where text is really close to this, and this feels a little tangenty, and you've trapped some white space. White space is good when it has an outlet. So this white space is a little bit better than this white space because the outlet is bigger. But if there's a way that you can create more of an outlet, maybe instead of having everything on these angles, maybe you could break this up and have, maybe this text could all be left aligned here or something, so that you've got this going on this side, but maybe it's straight here. Also, the spacing between these letters, as letters get really small, we need a little bit more space between them so that our eyes can tell where they separate. But on big text, separating it out actually, I don't want to say destroys, but it decreases the relationship between things. We use proximity visually to see how things are related. And because these two letters are so far apart from each other, it looks like they have less of a relationship than these two letters. And so visually that's confusing. Oh, the other problem, or the other difficulty that's created by this particular layout is that when you center align text like this, it makes it difficult to read, and it's not as strong. Although you do have some nice strong lines here on the edges, so I could almost live with center aligned text, but would encourage you to consider left aligning it and see what happens. And then if you can free up a little bit of space, here on this side of the graduate, and then untrap that space. I already said that. I need to move on. I really like this. So the roundness of this typeface is repeated nicely in these circles. I like that they overlap each other so they don't feel crowded trying to fit in. I like this information is easy to find here, and I like that the circle kind of fades off into you can tell there's a whole circle there. Your mind, finishes that circle. There's even some circles in this photo, so there's some nice repetition of that theme. It does make this text a little bit tricky, but I think it was wise for you to break up all this roundedness with some straight alignments. I don't know if you need to say Graduate Leadership Conference again. You said Leadership Conference up here. This isn't a bad idea to bold some of these things or to bullet them. You might go a little bit farther with that and make them larger or something to make them different from the body copy to stand out. I like this hierarchy. Check this font. I can't tell for sure, but it almost looks like it's a modern because the thins are starting to get fuzzy. And part of that is because I've got this size, I've turned the size down a little bit so I could fit this into a smaller area. But make sure it's not a modern with a thin horizontal serif. Although, see, you've got that here. This is a modern font. And so if this font isn't, I'm sure this isn't exactly the same, then these two are going to fight each other. You might want to go with a sans down here, or maybe an old style. You could maybe get away with an old style. It has better serifs. All right. Wow, look at all this beautiful white space. Love that. It's interesting putting the date, time, and place right here at the very top. And I like that you've pulled these lines together. That's usually something my students, they leave things too far apart. But at the same time, you might be getting some tangents because they're so close together. So see if there's any way to break that up, maybe just a little bit more, maybe a little bit more space between these three lines, especially because of those places where things are touched and kind of crowding each other. I like this strong alignment here. It is just a little bit off up here. Notice that it kind of curves in from the side, then it curves back, and then it curves in a little bit. What would it look like? Would it look bad to have just one unified alignment all along there? Give that a try and see what you think. Don't use hyphens for bullets. If you need a bullet, use a bullet, or don't use anything there at all. The nice thing about those hyphens is that you can tell where the next grouping of information starts. But a little bit of space would do that same thing. Create relationships by making more space between these two lines than there is between these two lines. That makes this grouping more obvious. Anything else? I'm wondering about this date, time, and place. Experiment with where it's placed. It's okay there. I mean, I definitely can find it there. It just seems like it's not the very first thing. It seems like this should be the first thing. Her chin's a little close to that edge. Not too bad, I guess. But her head is kind of shoved into that corner of this frame. So you might consider changing that up. His head is almost right there as well. So I might change that up, give him a little more space, or chop the top of his head off. Putting this in a box should help it align with something better because it's a center aligned logo. So that's a good idea. All right, two more. That's a nice little touch, and there's nice space around it. This is a nice little touch too, except it's very heavy. It's a heavy decorative element and doesn't really tell us anything. It kind of repeats the idea of graduation because it's ribbons that you might see in a diploma or something, I don't know. Nice contrast up here, nice contrast right here. Great, your body copy looks awesome. I really like this hierarchy. It just pulls me right down through the information. This is broken up into obvious paragraph groups. Pulls me right down. This is bolded but smaller. Very nicely done. This is really a good project. I wonder if just taking one of these off, if that would help to make it less kind of attention getting, or making it lighter maybe. I wonder what that would do if you made this a little bit lighter element. Yeah, very, very nice. There's some nice white space coming in here on the sides. And this isn't bad white space in here either. It's a little bit trapped in between all of this stuff. But overall, the white space is really nice. The alignment and the contrast, really nice. And this is the last one. Okay, I really like this top gray box because it has lots of space inside of it, and the title really stands out because of that space. You could have a little bit less space between these two lines, and it would be nice if this aligned, something up here aligned with something down here. Body copy's nice. You could use some more hierarchy. The alignments are pretty strong. This is a nice strong alignment. This is a strong project, really clean. But keep pushing it if you can, if you've got time. Just consider doing something to strengthen these alignments up here, and this proximity, the coherence, the grouping of these two lines. Yeah, very good. I hope that was helpful to you. If it wasn't, just don't ever watch these videos again, and give me some feedback. I wouldn't mind hearing from you. Thanks. Enjoy conference.